You know what I realized today? That being human is actually a big and huge responsibility. Normally, when we grow up, we don't even realize how much responsibility that just by being human we have to, carry. And of course, being human is a privilege. We're so different from the other animals. But, with great privilege comes great responsibility. So, since, we're not handed a manual for how to be a human being. In fact, we spend most of our younger years learning about things that are external, like math and history and science and so on. But I don't think we spend much time in learning about how we think, how to be human, how to feel, how to choose, how to live intentionally, and most importantly, how to even understand that being born as a human being is and comes with a lot of responsibility. And I think just because we don't realize that as much, we suffer a lot. First of all, we don't live by instinct. We don't just live by instinct alone. We do have to live by choice at the end of the day. And whether we make that choice consciously or unconsciously, it's going to determine, how we live our lives. And, the more agency we have in making the choices that we want in our life is the happier we're going to become. Otherwise, if we don't realize that we have a power of choice, and if we don't know how to consciously direct our choices, we're going to suffer. And the other thing is we spend so much time living on autopilot again, because yes, we can live on autopilot, but we also are able to consciously choose or direct our lives. If we just let our life continue with our childhood conditioning, how we were raised by our family, expectations, culture, school, and so on, that's going to determine where our life goes. And that does not mean that that's going to bring us happiness, because we didn't consciously choose that programming. So if we just inherit whatever we inherit and then continue on, then it means we didn't really choose that life. So again, then there's this other responsibility of consciously choosing what we want our life to look like, and bringing that into fruition. And again, so many of us feel so dissatisfied with life and it's not because life is bad, but because we're so unconscious and we don't really know where our dissatisfaction is coming from. And but that dissatisfaction is actually a sign that we're not living to our potential. We are not living the life that we actually want deep down. So most people probably don't awaken, but some people do awaken, especially, when you face something in life that's I guess traumatic or awakening. Then you start questioning, okay, why is this happening to me? Who am I? How do I resolve this? For example, let's say you're burnt out at work, or you are going through a separation or divorce, or you lost someone, whatever that looks like. That could interrupt this autopilot living, and then maybe that could help us realize okay, I have to come back to myself, because I can't control the external. I can't change the external without changing myself. And then we start questioning, who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing? What matters to me? And so on. And that is, of course, not fun. It's uncomfortable. It's so much easier to just live life how we're used to. But again, that won't bring us the happiness that we seek, right? So then this is the point where people will realize that, okay, I gotta be responsible, right? So I feel like it's way too late for us to realize that it is our responsibility, to actually lead our life. It's a huge responsibility, to be human as it is. Because normally how we grow up, because of our so much focus on the external, we just expect things to align after we check certain things off. For example, okay, if I go to school, if I get good grades, if I get a job, then life will be happy, right? So, or we say like, okay, I'm just gonna live on autopilot. We don't really realize how much it takes to consciously choose our life. So, we end up just doing things how we're used to, and then we wake up one day, we're like, okay, this is not the life I want. So, the realization that having so much responsibility as a human being is so stressful, but also it's so freeing, because then that means we have power to direct our lives. We have power to change our lives, because now we're taking responsibility and ownership about everything that's going on in our life. And so we stop waiting for the world to give us what we want. We stop waiting for that perfect partner to come and, make our life beautiful. Or we stop waiting to make more money to be happy. We stop waiting, for better circumstances, to win the lottery, or just to, have motivation until we do something. Just stop waiting, and then we just take responsibility, and then that gives us freedom to do what we want. Yes, it feels heavy at first, but later on, once we realize that, okay, so my happiness is not, on other people's hands. My happiness is actually, within me. And that's so much freeing. And then you realize, okay, my past doesn't have to determine my future. I can actually change my future by changing, who I am now. And no matter my circumstances, I can just protect my own peace, my own happiness, my own, everything that we want. We can just start cultivating it from within. So this is so much freeing, right? And living intentionally is something that we start doing once we realize that, okay, it's my responsibility. This is my life. I'm a human being, which it means I have so much responsibility to just even live a normal life. That's so much responsibility. And I take that fully. And then that's when we can start choosing things like our thoughts, our habits, choosing whether we want to forgive someone, choosing whether we want to let go of the past, we can have so much choice. That's so much powerful. And after that, we can start thinking about growth, how we can expand, how we can actually have more power and agency in our life. And it's not about becoming perfect, but it's about being really conscious about, what we're doing with our life and how we're leading it. And without taking that responsibility, fully taking that responsibility, we cannot have an impact over our life. We cannot have agency in our life, which means, other things are controlling us. So, every day we do have an opportunity to grow, to choose, whether to do something or not. So that's what, being human means. But again, having lots of responsibility as a human being is in realizing that responsibility early on. I think it will equip us, with living the life that we want, with, helping us direct life in the direction that we want, instead of just not taking that responsibility or not realizing that we have a responsibility as a human being, and ignoring that will lead us to live just a bare minimum life where it's everything is autopilot. We go with the flow. We don't have an impact over our life. It's and then circumstances determine, how we live and how we, whether we enjoy life or not. So, I think the responsibility piece is very important. And like I said, I don't think it's a choice for us to not be responsible, because, we all know what happens when we don't take that responsibility in our lives. Everything starts falling apart. But the moment we take responsibility, yes, it's a lot of work, but at the same time, that will bring us so much freedom. So yeah, I just want us to think about, how much responsibility it comes, being human comes with. And also at the same time, yes, how much privilege it has, because we are able to do so many things that other animals cannot do. So, but if we ignore that responsibility, then we're also not gonna have that benefit of being, the ultimate human being experience, right? So if we even like think about how we can raise our children in that way, that hey, like being human is actually not just about having fun, or it's not about expecting others, to give you certain things, or it's not about waiting for certain things to come, or it's not about putting your happiness, in an external thing that can, that you can buy or purchase, or it's not about like chasing entertainment. It is, first and foremost about being responsible for yourself, for your life. Like it's about responsibility at the end of the day. And that's just what it comes with being human. So the more responsibility we take, the better our life. So that's what I have for today. And I will see you on my next episode. Have a good one.